like to call the Fraser Zoning Board Appeals meeting to order for April 6th. If you could all rise and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Cindy, could you give us roll call?
Board Member Burley?
Here.
Board Member Schmente?
Here.
Board Member Farina?
Here?
Board Member Lessig?
Here.
Board Member Menendez? Here. And Board Member Steinbeck?
He's excused.
We have to make a motion to excuse him. I'd make a motion to excuse member Stimick.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. First order is the approval of the agenda. You've gotten a corrected agenda. Any additional corrections that anybody wants to make?
Yes,
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to remove the, on page 2 of the top, Fraser City Council meeting, that's Fraser Zoning Board meeting. And on number 7, remove A and remove B, because those are addressed in 5A and 6A.
Any objections to that?
I'll second.
Cindy, can we have a roll call?
Board Member Burley?
Agree?
Board Member Schmente?
Yes.
Board Member Farina?
Yes.
Board Member Lessig?
Yes.
Board Member Menendez?
Yes.
Petitioners and members of the audience, the Zoning Board of Appeals is herein created as a body of limited powers where there are practical difficulties and unnecessary hardships in the way of carrying out the strict letter of the Fraser Code. The board shall have the powers in passing upon appeals to vary or modify any of the provisions of the code relating to the construction, structural changes in equipment, or alterations of buildings or structures, so the spirit of the code shall be observed, public safety secured, and substantial justice done. No variance in the provisions or requirements of the code shall be authorized by the board unless the board finds evidence that all of the following facts and conditions exist. A, that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question as to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. B, that such a variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right similar to that possessed by other properties in the same district and the same vicinity. The possibility of increased financial return shall not be of itself be deemed sufficient to warrant a variance. C, that authorizing of such a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property and will not materially impair the intent of the purpose of the Fraser Code or the public interest. And D, the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the property for which the variance is sought is not so general in nature or recurrent in nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of general regulations for such condition or situation. Having said that, the first order of business is variance for pertaining to the sign on Smoky Joe shop, appeal number 22-5. Mr. Lippman, could you give us a statement of facts?
Sure. So When we were here 2 months ago, the applicant was requesting variances to exceed the number of allowable signs on a community business district zone property and to exceed the allowable wall sign area on a community business district zone property. They were proposing 3 wall signs on the building, while only 1 is permitted, and signs totaling 107.5 total square feet, while only 32 square feet is permitted. During the February meeting 2 months ago, the board explained that the ordinance regulations for signs needed to be followed and emphasized that the current wall sign is larger than the maximum allowed. The chairman at that point also asked the applicant about the possibility of reconfiguring the current sign to add the word liquor. Additionally, it was requested that they remove most of their window signs, which have been done. It was ultimately decided at the February meeting to postpone this matter and give the applicant the opportunity to revise its plans. It should be noted that the temporary signs that are still on the building were put up in December and were only supposed to be there for 30 days, to answer your question. In terms of the permanent 59.5 square foot sign, it was approved back in 2018, although it shouldn't have been. The interpretation of the zoning official at that time was that Smokey Joe's was allowed to put up a 48 square foot sign because in other districts, in shopping centers, you're able to have 1.5 times the size allowed under the ordinance. So under the ordinance, they're allowed 32 square feet, so 1.5 times 32 is 48 square feet. So it was the interpretation of the zoning official at that point that they could put up a 48 square foot sign. However, obviously, the sign that went up was larger than that. And this is also what happened with Love Sushi. They were permitted to have a 48 square foot sign, according to Paul Beal's interpretation, but they ended up putting they also ended up putting up a significantly larger sign than that. Anyway, the applicant's in front of us now with the revised variance request. They're no longer requesting more than 1 sign, but now they're requesting to add onto the existing sign with a new portion with the word liquor that would increase the existing sign to 69.8 square feet. So therefore, the requested variance is 37.8 square feet. My thoughts are that, you know, on the one hand, the applicant has made an effort to come closer into compliance with the ordinance, but on the other hand, they're still not in compliance. And, you know, their argument that they were making that this additional signage is necessary to let the public know about their liquor license is undermined by the fact that they've had this temporary signage up for several months. And also, it does say liquor on that pole sign that is, the pole sign for the shopping center. So my position is that all of my original comments still apply from the first time we discussed this. I don't see exceptional or extraordinary conditions here. The variance is not necessary for them to do business. They can still do business with their, original signage. And I do think that this could set a problematic precedent in the future. So therefore, I would still recommend denial of the request. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the planner?
Yes, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So what happens, what's the remedy if a individual is given dimensions, they exceed it, they come before us for a greater, to exceed that by greater,
Right.
what happens with the remaining 59.5? If you deny the existing one, what happens with that?
Oh, if we deny the variance tonight, what would happen with the 59.5? I would assume, and maybe you have a different position, but I would assume that that's like a legally non-conforming sign. So then they would just have to go back to their original sign, which they wouldn't have to take down, I wouldn't think, but they would just be limited to that original 59.5 square foot sign.
So they wouldn't need a variance for the 27.5 that they exceed, since now it's been brought to everybody's attention that it's non-conforming.
Right, but that's, yeah, it's like a legally non-conforming sign, a use, yeah. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it shouldn't have been approved in the first place, but because it was,
But
we're stuck.
didn't they exceed the original approval?
Oh, that's true. So because
By
they exceeded the original.
27.5, so if the stipulated footage was 32
Right,
by itself, and
Right.
he's at 59.5, he's 27.5 over.
right.
Prior to us even getting this variance. So my
Right,
question
right.
is, if hypothetically, if there was a denial on the actual variance, what happens with the 27.5?
Right. Well, I was actually thinking, when you were saying that then, or trying to clarify, I was thinking that they would only be exceeding, that I think because the original interpretation was that they could have a 48 square foot sign, I would think that they're only then, that they were originally exceeding it by, 11.5 square feet, but they would still be out of compliance.
But okay, so you,
Right, but
we're looking
I
at,
would,
so are we following the actual ordinance at 32? Or are we now making exceptions in the shopping plazas to go 1.5 times? Are we staying to the strict code at 32 square, or are we now going to look at everybody in that plaza at 1.5 times? Are we, do you understand what I'm saying?
yeah, I think that from this point forward, my position would be to only allow a 32 square foot sign, but I think because this was the interpretation that they relied on 3 years ago, I think that it would be like a legally non-conforming use, and you wouldn't require them to tear down the sign that's been up there for 3 years. They just would not be allowed to add on to it.
You're not answering the question, though.
Well, no, what he did, but even at 1.5 times 48, the 59.5 still exceeds that. So he was still over, even if we went with the 1.5 times.
Yes.
Right.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why it would be a legally non-conforming
Okay.
use.
And it just
That's what I would
and it stays as is?
I would think so.
Oh.
But maybe Alyssa has another interpretation, I don't know.
Yeah, if you would like, Ms. Menendez. So it's my interpretation that this sign, considering that it's over 32 square feet, if it would not be approved this evening, it would have to be taken down.
Oh,
It's in excess
okay.
of the ordinance.
Okay. So I stand corrected.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't have this. Is this you?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So if I can break this down, the ordinance allows 32 square feet
Yes.
in that area. It was approved at 48 through essentially an error.
Right.
But it was approved by the city 3 years ago.
Correct.
Do we know that that sign, as presented and submitted at that time, was within the 48 square feet? Because now we have a sign that's 59, that exceeds that allowable 1.5 multiplier.
Right, right.
So I understand the question that Ms. Menendez brought up. The question is, I see a reasonable case that we that we allow 48 square feet, because that was allowed, but this is already exceeding that.
Right.
What I do not know, and apparently we don't know for sure, is what was approved back 3 years ago. Was it a 48 square foot sign, or was it a 59.5 square foot sign, which again creates another potential error at the time that that sign was
Right.
approved?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. What I'm saying is that 3 years ago, a 48 square foot sign was approved.
Okay.
That's what was approved. And they just happened to put up a 59.5 square foot sign.
Okay.
So they were out of compliance at that point.
And that's another 20% larger than, roughly 20%
Yes.
larger.
0.5.
Well, 20%, but it's not a 5% difference on the sign. This is.
Right.
So, all right, that was my question.
Okay.
And then the remedy, Alyssa, or Ms. Erickson said, is if we do not approve it tonight, the sign needs to come down and then has to comply with the original.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, whose buzzer is on here?
It's Mr. Lemons.
Oops, sorry.
All right, is there any other questions? Okay. The applicant, would you like to come forward? Please identify yourselves for the record, please.
I'm Mark Zoltowski from iSigns and Designs, Warren, Michigan. Joseph Mattia, owner of Smoky Joe's Tobacco.
Hello, everybody. Danny Batty. I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, you guys are going to have to share that mic in order for it to be on the record. As you saw, he was coming out of the room to tell you that.
It works best if you speak directly into it, so if you need to.
Okay? Is there anything you would like to add to your application?
Yes, I mean,
You need to speak into the microphone or it's not going to work.
that good right there?
Better, yeah.
I'll start off first with what I feel like is a little bit different of an issue that we were presented with coming into the meeting, and that's being the sign being exceeding the allowable square foot limit way back. So, you know, I did contact and have communications with the original individual who did submit the permit or the proposals of what the sign was. Nothing of the records that I'm in possession of indicates that he was approved at 48. Everything indicates that he was approved at exactly what is sitting on the building today. So the city's, we would ask that if this 48 square footage in comparison to 59 and a half difference that we're at, the 11 and a half, we'd want to see what the city is relying on in terms of the documents that were submitted in 2018 or 2019, because I have different documents that, you know, knowing the individual who submitted these permits, they don't operate in that sense. They put up exactly what the city would allow. It would be a disservice to your client to put them in that position when you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on these things. So I would like to just begin with that note. And I believe that regardless of the
I believe we would like to see that also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But regardless of the decision, I think that Smoky Joe's is entitled to rely on the city's position, whether 3 years ago and the interpretation being different, or us sitting here today and a different interpretation from an individual.
Okay?
And with that stated, I would like to kind of delve into the next issue, that being the variance request to exceed the allowable sign limits. And I believe that the board members did have an opportunity to review the filing that came with the request. Did have a letterhead from my office and
Yep.
kind of walked through that. So I hope that you've had an opportunity to look at that, but I think that what's pertinent to discuss is provisions A and B of that, requiring that exceptional or extraordinary circumstances do in fact exist. As somebody who's not very familiar with the city of Fraser, I took the time prior to coming here today and just observing the areas and some of the things that are around. And to note, I believe that although the ordinance defines storefront as what it's defined as, I'm not arguing here that there is any storefront or, you know, that exists for Smoky Joe's, but while on 14 Mile, the building is very, you can see it clearly, you can see the sign clearly. It's uniquely situated in the fact that it's can be observed from both Garfield Road as well as 14 Mile Road. And I'm it very clearly seen from 14 Mile Road, just through the tire shop's parking lot and all the way back. So I think that that makes it uniquely situated in a sense, different from other properties. To note second, Smokey Joe's purchased and combined the location or the empty space next to them. Now, had that space been occupied by another business, they would be allowed 32 square footage of signage. To not allow an individual who is combining a unit to make a larger space, to take that, take that away from them otherwise, that doesn't align with what I'm understanding the intent and the purpose of the ordinance to be. Because that would essentially be asking Smokey Joe's to say, if you split your business and have two separate doors, you can have 64 square footage of signage in total, although it's going to be two different signs, which just defeats the purpose of what would be the basis of that, is my understanding of it. As well as the, addition of the liquor license. I had a chance to review the last meeting, and questions were asked of, if you were to obtain a pizza, if you were to start selling pizza, are you going to want to put a sign for pizza up? Well, I think that when you make that indication of new service, it should align with the financial investment of the other service, right? A liquor license is hundreds and thousands of dollars. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. It's a very big financial investment. There's a big process to walk through, and not everybody's even granted it to begin with. But when you deal with additional properties within 0.2 miles of you, in a 0.5 mile radius, there's multiple businesses that sell liquor. Off of an initial reasonable person reads Smokey Joe's, the first thing they think is not, oh, he's selling liquor. And initially, when the business was opened up, that wasn't the original purpose. But as things changed, that's why we sit here today requesting that variance. So I believe that the applicant can accomplish and establish the requirements through A. As for B, again, I believe that a liquor license, ability to sell liquor, is a property right that was approved to Smokey Joe's from the state of Michigan. And I think that it's very important for everybody to be on notice of that. It's going to become a pertinent part of the business, to sell the liquor, to make, just back what you financially invest in that. But what I really find interesting, and I've struggled with understanding, is I'd like this to be just noted for the record. CVS is located 0.07 miles from Smokey Joe's. Scott's Market is located 0.15 miles, and they're both in the commercial business district. And then there's Sal's Liquor, which is 0.2 miles down the road, although understanding that it's commercial neighborhood zoning. When you look at the zoning map in total, it is a very small area of the entire city that has this commercial business zoning. It's very limited, and it seems like it's given a different idea of what is allowed for signage in comparison to others. But, just driving by Sal's Liquor, that entire building from point to point is covered in signage. If there's an intent and a purpose for the ordinance, I would love to understand that, because it seems like it's been defeated there. CVS doesn't just, a common person usually knows CVS sells a little bit of everything, but they have, I think, 5 signs up indicating the pharmacy, indicating a CVS, indicating a number of services that they offer. Again, 0.2 miles from him, and probably can be seen from CVS. So that again goes back, and they're zoned the same way. They do have storefront, but my interpretation of the ordinance didn't allow for that much additional signage because of the storefront. That wasn't how I had initially interpreted it. I don't believe that C and D in the requirements, the authorization, it wouldn't be a substantial detriment to any adjacent property, as noted. Smokey Joe's purchased and combined the property next to him, of course, pulling all permits and going with that, as well as, again, I think that D just indicates that it would be a substantial detriment to adjacent properties. Focusing on the lights and visual impacts, I don't even think that's applicable here. Lastly, E, it states the condition or situation of the specific piece of property, intended use. of which the variances saw, if not of so general of recurrent nature, as to create a general rule. And the city noted that it would be uncommon for a business in the city, whether, it's not uncommon for a business in the city, whether a store or restaurant, to sell liquor. Therefore, if these variances are granted, it is foreseeable that many other businesses would request larger signage. Now, again, that's interesting to note, because I believe that every building that I passed at some point exceeded the signage. I believe these ordinances were written at a time that's not caught up in today's day. I don't believe that the intent and purpose, even back then, is still trying to be met today. I think that there's a general understanding that with time comes changes to everything, not just ordinances, but everything. So I believe that it can be established, and to rely on a few more things, the combination of the additional space, the distance to these other businesses that are competitors selling liquor, have the ability to not just advertise liquor, but numerous other services that their business has. Smokey Joe's is very involved in the community, has been. He's across from the city building here, and does good for the community anytime he's able to. There was one other note that I wanted to make prior for you moving on. It was just relying on what the city stated in the original docs. I apologize. The city indicated in one of their responses that applying different signage standards to similar situated properties would materially impair the intent and purpose of the ordinance. I would like for the applicant to have an opportunity to truly understand what that intent and purpose is, and why, in such a short distance from him, it's not being applied in the same manner. With that said, I don't have anything further.
Alyssa? Our variances go with the land, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Does a liquor license go with the land?
I am not a liquor license aficionado, but I do not believe so. I believe that it's for an individual establishment, person, things of that nature.
Okay. Thank you, that's what I thought. Yes. Ms. Menendez?
I have one question for you.
Yes.
The 32-foot square, that is per establishment, per the ordinance, regardless of how big that is, correct?
Let me look at the ordinance, and I can read it directly for you, if that would help.
Thank you.
So, under the community business district, only one wall sign shall be permitted per establishment, and such sign shall not be larger than 32 square feet in area.
So, to that point, then, it wouldn't matter if he took on extra space. It's the same establishment with regards to the 32 feet. In terms of the liquor license, my understanding is it stays with the person. In other words, if you moved out tomorrow and that turned into a clothing store, the liquor license wouldn't stay with the clothing store establishment. That's my understanding. Additionally, the line of sight to that, whether you're headed east or west on 14 Mile Road, that liquor on your pylon, you can see as clear as day. Heading south on Garfield, you can see clear as day. Even when I came over Utica, when I get partway between Utica and Garfield, I could see liquor. What pops when I come down the street and look is I see Smokey Joe's, big and vibrant, and I see liquor. On both sides of the spectrum, I could see if you had no liquor sign displayed at all, but clearly, when I come down that street, I know there's liquor there. I'm going to pull in right there, and I'm going to see that you're a liquor store. There's no missing it for me on that. There is where I struggle with approving a variance when it's already there. And then, moreover, to find out that it's so much over, now, I get it, you had it approved. And I don't know if there's any kind of grandfather laws for what somebody puts up, given the fact that it was, I don't know. But the fact is, it's 32 square feet, you're over to begin with, and there is signage that states liquor. And in terms of CVS and the other businesses, you can't just look at it and say, well, they have one, I can't. You have to look at the actual variance. You have to see under what circumstances they got it. Was there a hardship? Was there a practical difficulty? The other reason I struggled here as well is because I can't see a hardship or practical difficulty in the sense of this ordinance. You know, people could have it personally, but that doesn't denote that in the context of the ordinance. And is for me, based on that, I would have to deny the variance based on that fact and the fact that you already have liquor so visible. I don't have a hard time seeing that you provide liquor. I can see that.
Dan, I agree with you, but a little bit disagree with you. I think most people driving don't really view those tenant boards, ground signs that much. They really don't. I think visually you're going to look at the building front. This is the building I'm going to go to, and you look at the building fascia fronts way more than that ground sign.
Normally, I would agree with you, but what I notice is because of the bold coloring, that sticks out. I mean, you can see it with no problem. That if it were all running concurrent, where they have white background, same font, same color, whatever, but that sign on the bottom of that pylon on both sides jumps at you, and it's substantially a good size font for the liquor display. So that's my personal opinion on it. I mean, I couldn't miss it, quite honestly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Burley.
Yeah, I agree with Roseanne on that. You mentioned your three hardships were basically purchasing a liquor license, the cost of it. Well, right in the reading, it says that just financial gain does not allow you to grant a variance, okay? The second one was the driving from going west. If I'm right, you said from going west to east, okay? No matter how you go, north, south, east, and west, actually, if you go north on Garfield and you're looking, those signs, the liquor and right below Smoky Joe's is like 5 feet away when you're looking. So they're both exactly the same place. Your liquor, that sign right there is facing that way, and the stanchion sign by the road is right there. Okay? And then east and west, like she said, it's the same thing. You know, coming east, it's hard to see Smoky Joe's. Your sign at the sidewalk just says liquor, and then it says Smoky Joe's in small. So I see that as being more of a hardship than putting a liquor sign there for you. I mean, as a business owner, okay? And then, like Roseanne said also about the space next to it. Okay, that was one of your hardships too, which, you know, she stated the actual variance. So that, I agree. I don't really see a hardship there that would allow us to give you a variance.
Thank you. Mr. Lesich.
Yes. What is the dimensions of the liquor, the proposed additional sign?
8 feet by 1.83 feet.
I didn't hear the first number.
8 feet long by 1.83 high. So
1.8 feet high?
so like about 14 square feet.
All right, but you, in the petition, you asked for a 10-foot approximate.
Right, it said tentatively. I wasn't sure how they got the 10 on there, to be honest.
Well, it's important that we're very specific here, because we've gone from 32 square feet to 48 by city approval to 59, and now we've gone from 10 feet to 14. I can't vote on something if the numbers are fuzzy, excuse me. So, because I was looking, it was very hard to read that, and that's why I asked that specific question. It wasn't a gotcha. Because if we had that 14, we're not at 69 feet anymore. We're at almost 75. So I would really, and I think I said this last time, I would really like to see specifics and that we can all agree, these are the numbers, this is the size, this is what it's going to look like. I won't go over the other points that have merit, but if we're going to do any kind of variance, and you ask for 10 feet and it's actually 14, that's 40% higher than you asked for, than just for that particular sign. And so I'm uncomfortable with it. That's,
If there's a consideration to approve the liquor sign, we can obviously conform to that 10.2.
well, and in my world, after a long time on this side of the table, I would prefer that that was presented as an affirmative, rather than, yes, we'll change that and we'll do it your way. That's not how it's just not how I like to do business on this side of the table. Thank you.
Okay. Who's that?
One last question. The signage, inside all the signage that you removed, do you plan on keeping that down permanently?
That would depend on, Mr. Frank asked me last time if I was going to take the window signs down in order to get approved. And I took all my window signs down, no window signs. If I get approved for my liquor sign, I will not put window signs up. In addition to that, I took down the state minimum liquor signs today as well. I was not aware that I can only have those up for 30 days. I figured as the variance was going, until we can figure out how I can operate my business and sell, liquor and try to make some of my money back, I figured that it can be up there until, we figure this whole thing out. But as soon as I found out today that it was only 30 days, I immediately took them down. So there's no sign. The only sign on my building right now is that Smoky Joe's.
Okay. Mr. Burley?
Mr. Mateo, were you the one that applied for that temporary sign in November?
The banner,
Yes.
it was not applied for. We put those signs up after we applied for this sign. We said, let's go ahead and put these state minimum liquors, just to let people know that we have liquor, to put some sort of banners.
You've
up.
got to speak into the microphone, or we're not going to catch you.
Yeah, so those were not, I wasn't aware that a banner had to have been approved, and I figured that since we're in the process of doing this whole sign variance, I wouldn't have an issue putting up a banner that said liquor state minimum. If I knew that, just like everything else I do in the store, we would have pulled permits, we would have asked questions, we would have asked for permission. We don't do anything without doing any of that stuff. So I just wasn't aware, and as soon as I found out today, Bill gave me a call and he said, yeah, it's only for 30 days. I immediately took it down. So I just wasn't aware, just simple as that.
May I add one thing for the board to consider? I think what's important, and just relying off of Ms. Menendez's comment regarding other similarly situated businesses or businesses in the area, and I think that it at least is important for us to be able to have a chance to review what they relied on to get more than the signage we're requesting as the variance. I think that if the city relied on allowing them then, and I don't know what the time frame of that looks like, but I think a FOIA is going to be appropriate to know, if everything in the similar situated area is being given the same discretion. I don't know if that was a different board. I don't know if that was, what their hardships were that they were able to identify. But on its face and just looking from, an observation standard,
So you are asking for us to table this?
for one more, for the next meeting, I think it will give me enough time to come back with at least, at the very least, questions in terms of other businesses in similar areas. I think that is important for Smoky Joe's to have that opportunity.
Michael?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And you mentioned a FOIA. There's our city clerk there. She can give you the instructions on how to contact her. But I agree with you that I would like to know how it came to be that you have the sign you have now. I would also be interested in knowing how Love Sushi, how that transpired, because I think that's a fairness issue and a due process issue for you. So I'm not interested in tearing down your signs, and I'm interested in compliance, but I would like to see the whole picture, and I would like that information shared with us as well, so that we can all look at the same piece of paper.
Mr. Freedom, may I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lessig. Are you asking if they FOIA, you would like to send
Well, and thank you, I had a brain freeze for, my question was, if they FOIA that, you'll send it to them, but do they need to FOIA that, or can this board request that you compile that information and send it to the petitioner as well
I
as?
wouldn't compile it. It would be Mr. Lippman.
Well,
If they are requesting the information, it is customary for them just to send me a very simple email. It doesn't have to be a FOIA form, they can just send me an email.
Okay.
Pretty detailed as to what it is you're looking for. I believe I understand what you're asking for, but I want to make sure I get you everything you're asking for.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you can just
I'm good.
go online and send it to me at cityclerk@mi. City of Fraser.
yes, and when I said compile, I mean you were coordinating the fulfillment of the FOIA. Mr. Lippman and Ms. Erickson would be the ones that, making sure all the pieces are there. I do FOIAs, you might know that. So I would like to see that, and I would like to include that Love Sushi sign permit information so that we can compare what happened at one end of the building with what you're trying to do at the other end of the building. And yes, I would like a copy.
I want to open it up for public opinion. If you guys, if anybody wants to speak on this, nobody? Okay, then I'm going to close public hearing. Bring it back up to the board.
I'd like to make a motion to table this until the applicant has received what they have asked for, along with all the board members.
I'm going to ask Alicia, table
To
or
clean that up?
postpone?
It's technically a postponement. Table is only used at the same meeting, so technically a postponement. And does, Ms. Menendez, do you want to set it for a specific date?
Date certain, our next meeting? Well,
I'm not sure if that's,
one moment, can we get the information by then, is the question.
Mr. Lippman?
Because we don't have to renotice, correct? Because it's, okay. So should we allow them to gather the information, then reach out to y'all to schedule the next available meeting? Would that work for everybody?
I would think that can happen pretty quickly, right? I would think so. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask you, because you guys are the ones that are going to have to go through the records to find the variances that were granted.
I would believe that we could postpone this until the next scheduled meeting, and if the information is not complete by then, we can simply remove that item from the agenda and
Do we have that date? Anybody got a hand? So it's May 4th, okay. I would like to postpone variance 2205 until May 4th.
I'll
Is there a
second.
Mr. Burley?
I'll second.
Any discussion? May we have a roll call? Cynthia?
Board Member Burley?
Agree.
Board Member Chimenti?
Okay.
Board Member Farina?
Agree.
Board Member Lessig?
yes.
Board Member Menendez?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a happy Easter, guys. God bless.
We'd like to just
Oh.
note something else. The pole sign that we discussed, there was additions made by my client about requesting from the city. If that's something of an issue, we would just like to be made, he'd like to be made aware of it so he can correct it, get it to where it needs to be. He's not trying to do anything that's not
It-
compliant.
If you talk with the planners, and,
When I initially took over Smoky Joe's, our sign, we only had, if you look at the sign, if you look at the pole sign, you'll see a little spot that says lottery. That was gonna be for my whole store, which that would never have worked. So I literally had to add that addition, that liquor, I had to add that myself out of pocket and pay for that to be put up, just so I can have larger signage so it is visible from the road. And even though it says liquor now, it used to say Smoky Joe's before, used to match my same exact sign that I have right now. And I had the option to choose, just like how last time you told me, would you be willing to remove your window signs in order to add a larger sign, which I removed my window signs. You asked if the signs could be closer together so it looks like they're connected, which I did that as well. So I'm really trying my best to comply with everything you guys are asked for from the first meeting, which I've done everything correctly and everything you guys are asking for. And I would really honestly take that liquor sign off. I'll just put where it says liquor on the pole sign, I'll put the Smokey Joe sign back up there if I can put liquor underneath this main sign, because that's way more important and way more visible. And even me, when I'm driving by a plaza, no, you're not looking at the pole sign. You just happen to notice it right now because that's what you're looking for. That's what we're here talking about. You know, you're looking for that. So that's why it pops out and it's so noticeable. But for just anyone driving by looking for a liquor store, I mean, I highly doubt anyone's going to look at Smokey Joe's. Some people call and still think we're a barbecue joint, that we're selling food out of there. Still, to this day, after 4 years, you know? So, you know, it is very important that we can get that sign up. And that's the only way I'd be able to run my business, so.
Thank you again.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you. Happy Easter again, guys.
You as well.
Two.
Thank you. God bless.
Next item is Devon Storage Holdings and Design Haas. They're asking for building setbacks in the IC Industrial Controlled District, Section 32144, subsection 4D, provisions pertaining to distance between two buildings. The minimum side yard setback requirements with an adjacent residual district, which is 100 feet. Building C has a proposed 59-foot, 11-inch side yard setback of 40 feet, 1-inch variance requested. And Building D has a proposed side yard setback of 79 feet, 2 inches, 20 feet, 10 inches variance requested. Mr. Lippman.
Thank you. All right, so the applicant is proposing to convert an existing building into one featuring 61,690 square feet of climate-controlled storage space, as well as to construct 9 smaller drive-up storage buildings totaling 24,198 square feet. And this site is interesting in particular because part of the 4.4-acre site is zoned IC, industrial controlled, while the remaining part is zoned IR, industrial restricted. The applicant's proposed site plan does not comply with all setback requirements, and there are issues with certain buildings being close together, as you already pointed out. In terms of setbacks, under Section 32-1443B, in the IC district, if an exterior yard borders a residential district, as it does here, there must be a side yard setback of not less than 100 feet. And in the applicant's proposed site plan, Building C has proposed 59-foot, 11-inch side yard setback from the adjacent residential district, and Building D has a proposed side yard setback of 79 feet, 2 inches from the adjacent residential district. In terms of the distance between buildings, as you just mentioned, under Section 32-444D, in the IC district, the minimum required distance between two buildings is 40 feet, but the proposed distances between their building C and D is only 8 feet. Between building D and F is 39 feet, and between building F and G is only 5 feet. As we know, under Section 32-228, where there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in the way of strict enforcement of the zoning ordinance, the ZBA may grant appeals to vary or modify any zoning provisions that apply to dimensional standards. So we look at these different requirements. The first one is that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions that apply to the property in question that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. The applicant states here that the unique conditions that apply to this property are that 6-foot perimeter walls are in place and that there is a low demand for customer traffic. And to us, or to me, these conditions don't seem exceptional or extraordinary. They're not the type of exceptional or extraordinary conditions that were meant to justify variance. Secondly, the second factor, or the second requirement, is that such a variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right, like that possessed by other properties in the same vicinity. It seems fairly evident to me that this variance isn't necessary, because if it's not granted, the applicant can still develop the site with storage buildings. They would just have to modify their site plan, and they probably would have to have fewer storage buildings, but they could still develop it as the same type of development. Third, that the authorizing of such variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the intent and purpose of this chapter or the public interest. And I do think that it is foreseeable that since that 100-foot side yard setback would not be in place, that it's foreseeable that granting the variance could result in a nuisance to the residential neighbors. And then lastly, the last factor, that the conditions or situations of this specific piece of property or in the intended use of the property for which the variance is sought is not so general or recurrent in nature as to create a general rule for such condition or situation. And here too, I believe that, you know, it's not uncommon for a storage development to be situated next to a residential district. So granting these variances could very well create a general rule and establish a precedent for future decisions. So our recommendation is that since the applicant did not meet these ordinance requirements for obtaining the requested variances, that their request be denied. Thank you.
I have a question for you. When an applicant applies for a variance, isn't that property supposed to be open to us to go in and?
It's gated, couldn't get through.
Oh, really?
It's
Okay.
locked, padlocked. I couldn't get through on the day we were there. You also went there and it was padlocked?
Wow, okay.
So,
Yeah, I would believe so, yeah.
okay. So we have a problem there. Okay. Are there any other questions for the planner, please? Sorry. Is this you?
Nope.
Anybody? Joseph?
Are there any other storage facilities in the city that are in this kind of situation or anything like that?
So I'm not sure if there are currently, but I was just thinking that this is a type of situation that I could certainly foresee occurring in the future. So therefore, you know, it would undermine the 100-foot provision of the variance if we were to just grant this, because I think it's foreseeable that this could happen again.
We had some questions, Mr. Lippman. Has public safety weighed in on this?
This one. Public safety.
Because there was a real problem with turnarounds for
Yes. Okay, now,
fire trucks
yep,
and the placement of vehicles and the parking along the other side with motorhomes
right.
parked in there.
yep. And those have not been addressed, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Nope.
Well, I for one am not willing to go without some form of safety, public safety weighing in on this. I don't want to put any firemen at risk.
Right.
or not being able to do his job and get out safely. I have another question for you. How would the city manage these portable storage areas?
I mean, I don't know. I would be guessing if I came up with anything. I'm not sure.
Well, then I will ask, when we're done with you, I'll ask him how he plans to do it, because I don't feel comfortable. Yes? Is that you, sir?
No, not me.
Who's it? Oh, that's it. Any other questions for the planner? Any, would you like to add anything?
Yep, my name is Joe Latosis. I'm with Design House Architecture. Thank you for having me this evening. So I'd like to just go over a couple of the points Planner Littman brought up, and kind of bring another argument to the table. So this site is split zoned. That's kind of the root of the issue with our layout, where the IR district, which is the little nodule to the left there, so that area is zoned IR, and the setback from the RM zoning that's adjacent to it is 50 feet. So half the site has a setback of 50 feet, and half the site has a setback of 100 feet. Existing one-story building, it's located on the upper portion of the site, is within the 100-foot setback currently as existing non-conforming. So when laying out this site, we feel that because half the site's 50 feet and half the site's 100 feet, and some of the RM properties that abut our lot are up against the IR and IC zoning. So they have a 50-foot setback on one side and a 100-foot on the other. We are asking to treat the whole site with that 50-foot setback, the IC and the IR zoned portions. So we feel that this, when it comes to item A, extraordinary circumstances, that the fact that the site is split zoned, IC and IR, that this creates a extraordinary circumstance. We meet or exceed the 50-foot setback in all cases of these buildings. I just ask that to be considered the hardship we are facing. For item B, following the 100-foot setback in the IC zoned area reduces the buildable area adjacent to the existing building to a point where we can't do much with it. We are not increasing the nonconformity as created by the single-story building existing on site. And we are proposing buildings that fit within the standard self-storage with 10-foot module.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
In regards to item C, the RM parcels adjacent to the IR zoned portion and the IC zoned portion, as you know, have different requirements for the setback. We're asking that to use the 50-foot setback as opposed to the 100-foot setback. And this project is a special circumstance due to the split zoning. We're not asking relief from the 50-foot setback. We're only asking relief from the 100-foot setback. We're just asking to be held to the same restraints on that entire side of the property. In regards to the distance between the buildings, we're holding a standard distance between the buildings that's used throughout the storage industry. These locations of the buildings are placed the thought of maneuverability of not only RVs and trucks and boats and trailers, but also fire trucks. We'll provide, as part of the site plan approval process, a turning radius study showing that the fire apparatus of the city of Fraser are able to move within the site around all of the buildings if an emergency were to happen. So we're here tonight asking for approval of the variance, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have or provide any additional information.
Mr. Burley?
Yeah, one question. Why did you separate D and C and F and G? Why,
There's egress from the existing building at those points.
okay,
There are egress points, so doors coming out.
okay, so those are entrance, okay. And this is for Mr. Lippman. I got a question for you. I just noticed this, if you add the 59 and the 30, that doesn't even become 100 feet as it is. So is it an original variance for that?
I'm,
You look at the 59 from C to the wall or whatever is there,
okay.
okay, and you add their 30 for the length of the building, that corner of the original building would be 89 feet.
Oh, you mean at the,
So it's not even 100, which is,
right, right. Well, I was viewing that as a legally non-conforming use, because they're not adding you're talking about the main large building.
the original building.
Yeah, yeah. I was viewing that as a legally non-conforming use. So I was analyzing these new storage buildings that they were proposing to put up.
One other question. And I don't know if you will know it. You're an architect, so you might know this. Why couldn't you make that one building with a egress going straight through?
We could continue the roof over top
And
of it.
that would probably take care of those two variances.
Yeah, I'd have to double check the egress distance from inside the building. There's a certain distance we have to get from the furthest point within the building to the outside. But I think there is some leeway in there to,
Because that
those
might,
could be,
that might help you on at least those two buildings. I mean, obviously, the driving through might be a little difficult.
Who's, this you, Michael?
My turn?
Yours, sir.
Yes, can you describe what a portable building is?
yes, so those are portable equipment boxes is the technical term, that are used within the storage industry. They are not connected to the ground. They are movable. They are not shipping containers. They have metal, smooth metal siding and coil roll-up doors. That we'd place them down and they could be removed if needed,
Or they could be moved?
or they could be moved.
Okay, so why are they not permanent? I'm new to
Yeah, there's no
portables.
footing, there's no attachment to the ground at all,
All right,
just sitting on the ground.
There's no power to them.
What's that?
There's no power to them.
No power.
okay. So these would be like on a construction site, similar to something like that? You said they have roll-up doors and they're not storage or shipping containers. All right. I guess, from my knowledge, were these conditions, the IR and the IC, this property was recently purchased, I believe, last year?
Correct.
So these were known before purchase. So, and the setbacks were known before purchase. I assume these issues were taken into account, and I presume somebody said we'll deal with them later. But my concern is the residents over there. I've heard from those residents in the past about business, or there were vehicles on that property. They were running for excessively long time. They were diesel. And my position is, these are residents, they have the same property rights as the owners of this property, and they've enjoyed those 100-foot setbacks since they moved there, since those properties were built. So I don't see an extraordinary need to change that and change their enjoyment of their properties. So I would have to, there would be a high bar for me to,
Yeah.
to
I would say that not all of them have a 100-foot setback, though. Maybe,
well, that's fine, but the ones that do have no interest in decreasing that setback. And that's I want to make sure that we're fair to everyone. And mostly the property owners that have been there for 50 years should not have to adjust their lifestyle and their enjoyment of their property simply because this is a plan that was presented to the city. So that's my main point on that. Thank you.
What about access to the area? Why is it
I
locked?
can talk with the owners and make sure we provide access for you and the
You
board.
let the city know, when it's going to be open?
Yep, I can work with staff and let me know a day and a time, and I'll make sure it's available. Or a certain length of time, if that works better.
Yes, ma'am.
The 40-foot spacing between the buildings, I mean, it is reduced by a significant amount, 32,
Need to remove those distances between
so
buildings.
that could be accomplished.
That could be accomplished.
Mr. Lippman, would that work?
I would want to see, I would want to see a revised plan, but yeah,
Okay.
that seems like that would be,
What this portable thing is going to become. Is somebody coming there with their work trucks or cement trucks, things banging, you know what I mean? And you're right up against a residential neighborhood.
So the portable storages are within the,
Is that the reasoning why you're doing it?
it's not that much cheaper, surprisingly. It's, the reason to do it, it's a different offering at a lower price point for the tenant. So that's why that's being offered.
Because you're not doing the foot-in, because you're not doing power? Is that the, okay.
Frankie,
Go ahead.
on your building G and building F,
Combine building G and F to a single building. And the same with D and C. If the variance is granted to be able to build building C and most of building D.
Said you would combine these buildings, it'd have to see revised drawings before we could make any kind of decision either way, which would have to go through the planner to review, and I don't know, does it go back to,
when the applicant was talking about combining some of the buildings, obviously that would negate the need for some of those variances regarding the 40 feet between the buildings, but then
it's going to be maintained,
The snow removal,
or snow removable.
it'll be piled in some of the vehicle storage spaces that aren't being rented during the winter.
So between,
You understand, the planning commission still has to see a site plan
Correct.
after, even,
Correct.
okay.
Should I say, like, give a week of time where it'll be open, or time of day, or
what will work for all of you?
It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
A question, for him to revise those drawings, get them,
well, I would like to have at least 2 weeks to write my,
Right.
to be 2 weeks ahead of time. So if we're looking at June, what? Oh, June.
I do have one question for the board, and perhaps the planner can clarify, but I do believe that Planning Commission postponed the site plan so the applicant could seek the variances from this board? Go back to,
go back to.
okay, I'm sorry, I thought I was trying to understand that it was going to planning commission in between, and I didn't see the use in
No,
that,
the-
so, okay.
Planner.
Planner, okay, thank you, Mr.
That was
Green.
probably me confusing. I'll have to own that one.
Because you said they postponed it, the planning commission postponed it for us to take action on the variance. So the planning, and your question was,
Boom.
Yes, Mr. Brewer.
This is for Mr. Littman. I got a question. Building J, that's not 100 feet from the side setback, so why isn't that on there?
Correct, yeah, to the,
Because that's in that area.
yeah.
that-
The 100 feet from the residential only applies to the IC district, and that's in the IR district.
Okay, so on here, it says, Building D,
Building D.
how far is that from that little part, from the IR district? There's a little edge there. Okay, so theoretically, I mean, I'm not saying this, but if that was cut off maybe 2 feet or 3 feet off, and that's in that district, and there is no building C, and he puts the building F and G together, they wouldn't need any kind of variance.
I'm sorry, I would need someone, oh, okay, yeah, can we do a pointer?
So, yes. So, in theory, if
Yeah.
you go to Building D.
Building
okay,
D.
Building D, okay, that little, it's just the top area that
Yeah.
is not in the IR district, correct?
Correct, that's in the IC
Okay.
district.
So,
I think
that
that's what
would,
you're saying.
if he reduced that to that point.
Yeah.
And got Building C, and let's say it disappeared.
Right.
And combined F and G, he wouldn't need a variance.
I'd still need the 40-foot distance between buildings.
Oh, okay, so the only variance you'd need is the one from B to F?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea, though, that if you eliminated C and you cut off part of D, and you made sure that the distance between Building D and the residential district was more than 100 feet, yeah, that would be cleaning it up quite a bit. Thank you.
Not just a pretty face.
It's moving the seat that did it.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Okay, before we do that, is there anybody in the public that wishes to be heard on this matter? Madam Chairman. Thank you. Okay. Bring it back up to the board. Is there a motion to be had?
Motion to postpone.
uh,
And to June.
In a week or so.
Yeah, I'll have it
Okay,
for Wednesday.
okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Do that.
That's great.
Mr. Bruley, with your proposed modifications, what variances does that leave on the table?
Well, it would just be the 30 or the 40 feet in between F and D, I believe.
And the setback.
Need the variance for the 40 feet in between building F and D.
Okay.
and then what about building J and?
That's okay, because in the IR.
Okay.
But need the setback up there.
No, this is the only one, I think, isn't it?
Okay.
Am I correct that the only issue is the 59.1 is between C and the IR district, correct?
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm good when you give me the pointer, and I should have, sorry. Can I steal this for a second? Sorry about that. Okay, so there's the problem between F and G, and the problem between D and C. So if we eliminate the problem between D and C, then yeah, there's only the one.
Okay, so that would be the only one.
So will May work?
As long as the applicant can get me the revised plan and, very quickly, yes.
May 4th? Okay, postpone to May 4th.
Is there a
Second.
second? Michael?
Second.
Second by Mike Leskich. Can we have a roll call, Cynthia, please?
Board Member Burley?
Yes?
Shamonte?
Yes.
Marina?
Yes?
Lesich?
Yes.
Menendez?
Yes.
Okay. We'll see you in May.
Oh, I think, yeah, does Alicia have a question?
Would you like us to get it over to public safety before the next meeting as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Fire.
That revised time.
Thank you.
And if administration can let us know the date that we can,
Well, I would like an answer back from public safety.
Yeah, okay. Prior to-
So I'll send a couple dates to staff, and I'll make sure that someone's
Okay.
at the building to let you in.
Very good.
thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much.
Good, now that I've lost my place with all the papers.
I forgot to ask about that.
That's the- yeah.
We'll catch it on the next one.
If you just get rid of F and, you know, be done with that. Let's go through all that, you know?
Are you looking
You
for the
can't get
agenda?
anything between there.
Right here. Just use mine. Oh, you have to flip it over. It's two-sided. That's what confuses us.
Okay. There's nothing under new business, unfinished business, none. Planning Commission liaison. Well, we have the Planning Commission chairman here. Would you like to break the? That would be nice.
For our meeting, I have nothing in front of me, Mr. Chair. I have nothing in front of me. Remind me what was on our agenda. And I. Kathy Zarnecki, 31827 Pam Court. I apologize, I just came from the gym and did my spin class here.
Ooh,
What was on our agenda? Yes,
That's
and that was it, more or less, right?
Yep.
The site plan for Utica, again, the address again, I'm sorry, 331800 Groesbeck, I apologize. So yes, we had somewhat of a contentious meeting.
Yes.
The applicant was upset a little bit. This is the property that abuts up to the Aztec restaurant that came before this board for the variance on the fence. He was asking for a 6-foot fence, and you granted him a 4-foot decorative iron fence.
Still not up, is it?
I'm sorry, what?
Still not up,
No, it's
Still not up.
the fence.
not. No, it's not.
I didn't hear the question.
The fence is still not up.
The fence is not up, no, no. He was coming back in front of us thinking that maybe we'd give him site plan approval that evening, but we still have concern with the parking, as well as Member Warnick had some concern with the dumpster and the designation of the size of the dumpster on the site plan. So we are asking the applicant, Mr. Hanna, to come back with a revised plan to designate the correct size of the dumpster, as well as reconfiguring the parking and some of the handicap spaces. And from there, hopefully, we will go forward and approve the site plan.
And then he's gonna put the fence up, or he's already
He will be putting the fence up.
he's got
after
the
site
variance for
plan
the fence
approval.
already, so.
No, I didn't hear you, Mr.
He's got the variance for the fence already for the reduced.
Yes, but before he does anything on that site, he needs site
He
plan
wants to
approval.
get it all, okay. Okay, now I understand. It was good, because every time I drive by, I said, why is this thing any up, you know? It came
What-
before us.
We encourage the applicant, we are, telling him he has done a great improvement to the site.
Oh, yeah,
It looks
sure has,
wonderful.
yeah.
And because he was a little upset that he didn't get site plan approval last night, that we said, please come back, please work with us, we want to work with him. They are having a difficult, we are encouraging cross-access easement with the Patty Wax Bar, and the applicant is having a hard time with that property owner to sign an access agreement. So he's still working on that, and we encourage him to keep doing that. And I say maybe site plan approval, I don't know. Personally, I would like to see the cross-access easement, so Planning Commission could go either way, I guess. We don't have to require the easement.
The other thing that was brought up is there's a new proposed sign ordinance change that completely revamps the signage throughout the city, and the requirements for the signage. I've asked Mr. Littman to get everybody here a copy as well as the Planning Commission, because, we have to administer it, and do it. And we're, also asked that we have a joint meeting on that to get comments from you as well as the Planning Commission on that.
That sounds good. Yeah, right.
From what I understood from our meeting, it's a completely revamp of the sign ordinance.
Right.
Yes, so hopefully Mr. Littman will walk us through and tell us what the changes are.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So with this revamp of the sign ordinance, would it change anything with Smoky Joe's? Would it put it in any possible way of being approved, just through the revision of the ordinance? I like to ask
That's good.
questions.
Well,
It's a question for Mr. Littman.
I understand, but I just popped into my head, and are we,
It would be,
I don't foresee that, but I just think
The
it,
process would be too long. I mean, with the sign ordinance, we're going to be going through a text.
oh, I understand, but if he could just hold off and, stall and,
Doesn't
not
count.
stall, but delay things, let's say he delays them procedurally.
Okay, that's,
It's a question
no,
that,
that's an excellent, honest question. I wish I had the draft in front of me right now. I don't, but I can, okay.
it's just something I think needs to be a check
Yeah, of course.
on the
Maybe you
checklist.
Yeah.
could tell the applicant of Smoky Joe's that there's a possibility, with the changes going forward.
Yeah,
But doesn't-
Or it's going to be more restrictive.
right, right.
looks like it's going to be a 30-foot square sign or a 40-foot square sign.
Okay. There you go. Thank you.
That's not going to benefit him.
Nope, but now we have an,
Yeah.
Is there any length of time on a postponement? If somebody brings a variance before us and we postpone it, is there any kind of thing that
Do we
runs-
have anything?
I have nothing
Thank
more.
you.
Can I be excused?
Yes.
I apologize, I'm sorry.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roseanne?
Is there any time, a length of time on a postponement that runs out?
Yeah, did you know?
I don't think there's any specific time. I would have to review the board's bylaws. Sometimes there's bylaws indicating it's only for good cause, things of that nature. You might have some standards in your bylaws, but I don't think there's a hard and fast rule of X,
Okay,
if that helps.
yes, thank you.
Public participation. Participated. Approval of the minutes of the February 2nd. Are there any changes to the minutes from February 2nd? I don't understand why that's so low. Isn't that generally up front? The approval of the minutes, isn't that generally in the front?
We're moving, yes.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, members' comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Lesich.
Nothing for me, I'm good.
Not this time, thank you.
I don't think I have anything.
Oh, actually, what about the new applicant? I keep on seeing his
He's not.
He,
application.
no, we talked about that. You might not have been here yet. He asked to be not here tonight because his wife bought him surprise tickets to opening day.
Oh, okay.
So that's why he's not here
I
tonight.
did feel genuinely bad. He said, can we set the meeting for like the next day? And of course,
I wouldn't
explained to
feel
him
bad.
that, there
Does it
were
work that way?
public notices, and it was going to be today, and he
Right.
said, please apologize for me, so.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if I'm, who won? What was the score? Do we know?
Red Sox,
Tigers didn't win.
6-3.
They did?
Just so I don't forget you, do you have anything to add?
It's 8-3 or something like that.
Yes.
No, I have nothing, Frank.
In
Chairman.
terms of public noticing, every time we get a variance before us, that, there's a timeline or a deadline in which they're supposed to submit to give you time to gather everything, draw it up, and notice. And my understanding was everybody within, what is it, 300 feet?
300 feet, I believe.
Get a notice. We do that for every single variance, correct? And the only time we don't notice is on a postponement because it's already been noticed and we don't have to legally do it. Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Cindy, anything?
I forgot to say this last night. At last.
Could you speak into the microphone?
Thank you. At last month's meeting, there was some question about the pay scale for the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. And so I did do a survey with 27 communities, close to our population. Surprisingly, pretty much all of them answered because they wanted the response back. And there were 3 or 4 communities that got no pay. There were some communities that got $25, $30. The highest was $140 a meeting. Generally, kind of the mean was, I would say 60 to 65 right now. So I did submit that to the city manager. She's aware of it, and I'm not sure what happens from there, but I did want to let you know that I did at least check.
How much?
That came up at the planning. The planning,
For planning, I did planning, zoning, Board of Appeals, Recreation Commission. So for the most part, the Recreation Commission was volunteer pretty much everywhere. But the planning and the zoning made those, and then a lot of zoning Board of Appeals are paid hourly.
What is the proposal again? For how much?
I didn't make a proposal, I
Oh,
just
okay.
found out what people were making, and I forwarded that
Heard
to
something.
Elaine.
thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Lippman,
Nothing for me.
Madam Attorney.
Nothing from me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, for all of you to know, St. Malachy's has a fish fry. It's the last one of the year. We're going out of business. You're all welcome,
Not forever,
No, Good
just for the
Friday's
season.
best.
just for this year.
Okay.
Friday.
Okay, so they're also, in April 22nd, there is a reverse raffle, which is a dinner, beer, wine, games during the night, and you have a chance to win $5,000. So if anybody would like tickets to that, they can either contact the church or myself or Wally Papchiak, and we'll be glad to fix you up there. So it's a lot of fun. We had a good time last year.
I've
All
won
right.
once.
Pardon me?
I've won once.
There you go. Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, let's go home.